This is a broad, bountiful land, a land of limitless future that grows richer and more bountiful year by year. Yet thoughtful men surveying the future of this land of infinite promise say they see a challenge arising. Yes, a challenge to our growing and developing wealth and prosperity. Is it possible? Australia's wealth lies initially in the products of its soil and in the skill and patience of those who tend it, the men who grow the needs of the world we help to clothe and feed. Industrially, Australia is developing, growing stronger and more independent year by year. In factories, in cities, in towns, and on the land, men build the wealth of this great spreading country. What a vast land it is. 3 million square miles, 2,500 miles from east to west, 2,000 miles from north to south. A big, growing country. Australia depends, perhaps more than any other country in the world, on her roads, the veins and arteries which distribute her wealth. Along these arteries flow her lifeblood, the lifeblood of 9 million people, and the hundreds of millions who buy our food. In the memory of this present generation, Australia has come to depend more than ever before on her roads. Not only to carry primary produce to market, but to distribute the infinite variety of goods her manufacturing industries produce for home and abroad. In this prosperous land today, modern factories provide space for the cars of their workers. More vehicles on the road. Our great city markets depend entirely on the roads to keep them and us well fed. Milk and other perishables can only be picked up and finally delivered by road. Between Australia's widely scattered cities and towns, big transports now carry quickly and efficiently the goods that in other years went other ways. From Sydney to Melbourne in 20 hours. From Melbourne to Brisbane in 48. Day and night, in all weathers, they shift cabbages and cars, frozen fish and refrigerators. From the Indian Ocean to the Pacific, there is nothing the road transports cannot handle. Transport drivers work hard. On the road, day in, day out, they go out of their way to extend the courtesy of the highway to other motorists. For the drivers of the transports, road safety is good business, and road courtesy is a big part of road safety. Careful vigilance is another mark of the safety-minded transport driver, particularly if driving over bad surfaces. From time to time, he stops to check his hard-working vehicle and inspect the security of the valuable cargo entrusted to him. With a fine record of safety and reputation for on-the-minute deliveries, road transport is playing an increasingly important part in Australian commerce. Vital as they are, the intercity highways and the main roads which link big towns are only part of a network, and every piece of the net has its purpose. To the man on the land, the back road that runs around his property or links him with his fellow farmers and with the towns is just as important as the highway is to the city dweller. For today, the man on the land has cast aside the horse, the buggy and wagon for motor transport. Whether it's to take his family to town or to pick up materials for a new boundary fence, he relies on motor transport to carry him on the roads. Everyone uses the roads. Even the wandering gypsy with time on his hands, though he scorns anything so modern as an engine, has brought himself up to date with a rubber-tired wheel. Yes, Australia is vitally concerned with its roads. One of the cheapest and most popular means of modern travel, the caravan, would be denied to all without our road system. And as we venture further afield, the roads must precede us. The sheepman, the cattle buyer, every man on the land attends the local sales by road, and that goes for the livestock too. Today, the youth of Australia goes to school by road, to new types of schools which offer new opportunities for broader and better education. In every state, buses laden with happy, carefree youngsters travel the roads between schools and the far-flung homes. In the cities, too, the highway has come to have new meaning for children, who must now learn the rules of the road as well as the 3 R's. Members of the police department, both men and women, in their care of the children, engender respect and confidence from the youngsters that remains all their lives. There's hardly an aspect of life in this wide land that doesn't depend to some degree on the roads and highways. Without them, we'd be without our daily bread or pint of milk. When the outdoor calls, it's always somewhere along the road. Water sports such as surfing, swimming or boating can usually only be enjoyed after initial road travel. Playing or working, buying or selling, Australians use their roads to the full. Many of our roads are overused. They were built for other days and other ways, when Australia was feeling its way slowly and uncertainly towards nationhood. But the roads that served our fathers 30, 20, even 10 years ago are not good enough for today's needs. On our busy intercity highways, there are many bridges too narrow for 2 vehicles to pass abreast. Greater wealth from the land and the factories has brought a demand for more cars, more trucks to shift the ever-growing flood of primary and secondary produce, and the people who provide and distribute it. Even our main highways, and this is the Hume Highway, the main link between Sydney and Melbourne, have proved inadequate for today's needs. Such a highway deserves better than a surface that throws up a cloud of dust behind every vehicle that passes. Australia now has more commercial vehicles per head of population than any other country in the world. In the middle 30s, our overall fleet, commercial and cars, was 1 vehicle to every 14.2 people. By 1940, we had 1 vehicle to every 8.6 people. By 57, 1 for every 4.6 people. On a population basis, Australia stands 4th in the world in motor vehicle ownership. 1,350,000 passenger cars and 650,000 commercial vehicles on our roads, totaling 2 million vehicles. A changing coloured light releases a surging wheel-borne flood, without which we cannot live. Little wonder, then, that we're outgrowing our roads. In the light of today's needs, we can all see much that is wrong, very wrong with our roads. Designed for other days, they are no longer able to carry today's traffic safely and easily. What is wrong with our roads? Outdated methods cost everyone time, and time is something no young, growing country can afford to lose. It is obvious that for a great number of reasons, our roads are not good enough. Roads built for the days of Model Ts and one-ton trucks have not kept pace with today's needs. Nor have our means of road repair and road building been able to keep pace. Outdated methods are costly and time-wasting. We have men who, given the chance, can build roads as good as any in the world. But too often, we make do with half measures. We stick to pick and shovel methods when other countries have found better, cheaper ways of mending and making roads. The pick and shovel were fine tools once, but they're too slow and costly for today's needs. By nibbling at road jobs instead of tackling them in a big way, we're wasting a lot of the money we spend. Australia's widely fluctuating climatic conditions continually puts our roads to every test nature can devise. The flood that washed out this bridge took 30,000 pounds down the river. Yet the old bridge nearby, built in Grandfather's day, though perhaps hardly adequate for today's traffic, withstood the flood. Perhaps in those far-off days they were looking farther ahead than we are. Our main intercity highways, which should be our best roads, are among the worst. Potholes, frayed edges, worn bridge approaches are only some of the hazards. Even to the cautious driver, a bad road can be dangerous. A large pothole, then disaster. The cost in human life is staggering. Not all road deaths are caused by bad roads. 2,000 people died on Australian roads last year. How many would be alive today if the road had been wider or smoother? Ruts on the Hume Highway fractured the steering linkage of this transport and caused thousands of pounds worth of damage to it and its load. Insured? Of course. But who pays in the end? The highways exact their toll too in rapid wear of tyres, and the huge tyre bill and time wasted must go onto the public account for transport costs. Cost of transport now represents 30%, more than 6 shillings in each pound of the retail cost of all consumer goods. So delay and waste on the highway, aggravating as it is for the private motorist and his family, becomes a matter of pounds, shillings and pence for all of us. Unless our highways are soon improved, there is a danger that transport costs might rise even higher than the present 30%. Yet experts have calculated that as far as road transport is concerned, transport costs could be reduced by half if our highways and roads were brought to a required standard. In great projects, government and private, Australia is investing in the future. Huge dams that will store water and generate power. Vast, complex plants to refine our oil. Machines that will tame the atom and make it work for us. Tall buildings for the commerce of the cities. But nowhere in Australia are we doing anything adequate about our biggest single need, better roads. While other countries fling all their resources of machinery, manpower and technical genius into laying down thousands of miles of expressways, our engineers and workmen have to get by with the barest minimum. Even where they get enough money to rebuild instead of patching, they don't get enough to allow them to more than nibble at the problem. They take out a small rise here, put in a bridge there, but it's not enough. Even here, on the Pacific Highway between Sydney and Brisbane, shortage of money and machinery sets a snail's pace for work that must surely be regarded as urgent. We have the engineers, and we have the manpower, but mainly lack the tools. Have we anyone who will give the lead and say, let us safeguard the future of Australia with better roads? In North America and Europe, road building authorities have laid down 4- and 6-lane expressways spanning their continents. Because they build soundly, their maintenance costs are low, their transport costs are low. We in Australia could well follow that example. But stinting and cheese paring, we spend millions patching roads that should be rebuilt. Even when we build, we use outdated and slow methods that, while they seem cheap, are in reality costly and extravagant. A wheelbarrow was used in the Stone Age, and it appears to still be in fashion in Australia. At the present rate of progress, this bridge will not be finished for years. Let's move forward unencumbered. We can build good roads. Why don't we? In Australia, we have over 500,000 miles of roads, comprising concrete and sealed roads, unsealed roads, and unformed roads and tracks. 527,000 miles. Unformed roads and tracks provide 2/3 of this total. On our better roads, 3 miles in every 4 are unsealed. The whole of Australia, we have only 40,000 miles of sealed roads. Poor by modern standards. And even the sealed roads cannot cope with the traffic that wants to use them. The time has come for a national stocktaking, for a program of road building to maintain our present rate of growth in primary and secondary industries, growth which depends so much on efficient transport. Experts have warned us that unless we do something soon, we could find ourselves strangled by a transport breakdown, which could bring all the effects of a serious economic recession. The Australian Transport Advisory Council, representing the governments of the Commonwealth and of the states, has agreed that we must greatly expand our expenditure on road building. Road costs rose from 19 millions in 1930 to 84 millions in 1955. It's clear that 84 millions is barely enough for day-to-day maintenance. Well, how much is needed? The Council has estimated that in the next 10 years, state road authorities need to spend 558 million on new road works, and local government bodies 442 million in the same period, just to provide an adequate road system. This is a total for state and local government needs of £1,000 million. £1,000 million. In addition, road maintenance in this same period will require another £500 million, totaling £1,500 million. £1,500 million. £150 million a year for 10 years. Can we afford it? The question is, can we afford not to spend it? Our highway development needs a program to take care of traffic requirements for at least 10 years, preferably 20 years ahead. To provide such a program, Australia must establish an independent highways planning authority which will take into account the needs of primary and secondary industry and social communication. An authority which will recommend road priorities, road standards and finance. This authority must be divorced from political influence, but at the same time fully represent the governments of both Commonwealth and states. Much of the cost of highways can and should be passed on to posterity through special loans, which surely would be supported by an enlightened public. The balance of the cost must be an appropriation against general tax revenue. Today, all highway maintenance and construction comes from taxation imposed directly on motor transport. In addition, the motorist provides a huge surplus which goes into consolidated revenue. Much of the £1,500 million required over the next 10 years is already in sight. It requires only now that the governments recognise the great importance of developing Australia's land transport and demonstrate their courage to invest in the country's future. The Australian people will not object to being taxed for road building, and they'll lend their money willingly for it, providing they're sure it will all go to making better roads without waste. So there's the situation. We have a rich country waiting for us to seize the opportunities it offers. Australia needs better roads if it is to be allowed to continue its prosperous growth. Our leaders must now realise the need and lay down a road program, a program that will win the support and encouragement of people in every corner of this country. Let us go on building for the future. Let our men of government proclaim a highways planning authority that will secure that future by providing the roads we need to fully exploit the vast richness of this great land. Let us put ourselves on the road to a better, richer, happier tomorrow.